The Brazilian Amazon rainforest spans around 1.2 million square miles and faces major threats beyond the illegal logging, most notably the beef industry, which clears vast areas for cattle. Journalist Elisângela Mendonça, with support from the Pulitzer Center, exposed illegal cattle farming in Brazil, involving deforestation and land theft. But her investigation discovered too that the beef wasn't solely destined for consumption. It also supported the growing collagen market, made from cow hides and bones. Elisângela Mendonça is a London-based Brazilian journalist and the senior forest investigator at Global Witness, specialising in environmental and human rights issues. Mendonça was a Rainforest Investigations Fellow for 2 years at the Pulitzer Center, where she investigated environmental crimes and corporate accountability across rainforest regions. Her work has been featured in international outlets and has contributed to global conversations on deforestation, indigenous rights and environmental justice. So welcome, Elisângela. I'd really like to know a little bit about you and about your journey into journalism. So when did you know, what was the point in your life when you thought that was the career you wanted to follow?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've been working as a journalist for 17 years now. I have always wanted to be a journalist. I used to read science magazines in school, and I knew that this is the career I wanted to pursue. So I just went straight from school to university, got my degrees, and started working right away. I covered a little bit of everything. I covered energy, commodities, politics, finance, and then I bumped into the opportunity of doing investigative journalism, and then I knew that this is the path that I wanted to go to, that I wanted to continue. This is what I wanted to continue to do. So, environmental journalism became the core of my interest, the core of my work.
And 17 years ago, environmental journalism wouldn't really have been a thing. So it was something you discovered. I'm really curious, actually, where you see the difference being between journalism and investigative journalism. What would you say? Because for some people, investigative journalism is all journalism. You're investigating something. Where would you see the marked differences between those two?
Yeah, I think this is a fair description. I think all journalism should be investigative because you're trying to do some digging and research and find out more about a certain topic. But I think the main difference is in the time, resources, and energy that you're allowed to put into an investigation. I feel that I'm in a very privileged position where I can take as long as it takes to find the evidence that I need to substantiate a story, which is something that not all my colleagues have the privilege to do. So they are always on deadline, publishing stories one after the other, because this is the requirement in the industry, while I can take my time and I can look for all the sources that I need to find what I'm looking for. So that's definitely the beauty of investigative journalism, and this is why I fell in love with it.
And where did you start? If we turn to this story, so it starts in Brazil. Talk us through what brought you to the story from the beginning.
Forests are non-negotiable infrastructure for a livable planet. You can't simply ignore that they need to be preserved if we want to meet the climate targets that we have to meet. Basically, we are seeing the Amazon being destructed by cattle ranchers just chopping down the trees to create pastures for cows. And these cows are placed on illegally raised land and sometimes in territories of traditional communities like indigenous communities or quilombola communities.
We are now getting to the indigenous land of Mãe Maria. We are about to get inside the indigenous territory, and we're going to visit the community there, where there are 25 different villages. As you can see here, the sign marks the entrance of the indigenous territory, and it's covered by bullet holes.
So how did you start this investigation?
I was working for the Bureau of Investigative Journalism in London, and the Bureau has a lot of experience investigating food supply chains. So a lot of experience looking into beef, soy, and other food commodities. I was working on a story about beef with the Bureau. Back then, I was already a fellow with the Pulitzer Center's Rainforest Investigations Network. And I was looking into a story about how beef illegally sourced from indigenous territories was getting into the supply chains of the supply chain of one of the biggest meat packers in the world, JBS. Nestle buys beef from JBS. So when I was checking the shipping records, we noticed that there was a lot of collagen peptides being transported in the shipping records. So this was the moment when we saw a completely new opportunity for an investigation, because until then we were very focused on beef, but we didn't know anything about collagen at all. So I didn't know anything about collagen. I didn't know how it was made. I didn't know what it was used for. I didn't know who was buying, who was selling. So we decided to dig deeper and really understand what that meant and all the layers of that supply chain.
So tell us what collagen actually is and what it's used for.
Yeah, collagen, has become a star in the wellness industry. So collagen is a food supplement, and it can be extracted from animals. So fish, pig, and cattle. So the bovine variety. So basically, it's an industrial process where you take the skins, sometimes the bones of these animals, you process it, and then you produce collagen peptides. So these collagen peptides, they are used to produce the food supplements that people are either taking, or it's a powder that you can mix up in your drink, and you drink it every day. And those who believe that this is an effective product say that this is a miraculous anti-aging cure, that this is a product that can help you get better nails, better hair, better skin. So it really has become a multi-billion industry these days.
There's nothing out there to suggest that collagen is the wonder supplement that people think it is.
We did not investigate if it is an effective product or not. So we are leaving this for another investigation. But for this one, we were very focused on the impacts generated to the environment, more specifically to the Amazon rainforest during the production of these food supplements.
So this took you to the Amazon. When you actually went there, tell us about that. Presumably the Amazon itself was a new experience for you.
Yeah, so the journey to investigate the story started. So I'm based in London. So the journey for the story started on my desk. So basically reviewing all the documents, reviewing all the evidence that we could get, interviews, talking to as many experts as possible, talking to the companies that we thought would be potentially involved. But then we hit a wall. There's just so much that you can do from your desk. And then we decided to also do some on-the-ground reporting to confirm the links that we thought existed in this supply chain, and also uncover other aspects of the investigation that were still missing. So in total, we had 3 different reporting trips in different locations in Brazil, because this is a multi-step supply chain. So everything from a cow being raised on a farm, to a slaughterhouse, to a tannery, to a collagen factory, and then shipped to another place overseas. So there was a lot of work involved in understanding who were the players in this in this process. So what are the companies involved? What are they doing? Can we hold them accountable? So the reporting trips, they were intended to confirm these links, and also report the realities that we saw on the ground, which is vast forest destruction, invasion of the territories of traditional communities. Sometimes violently, and the real impact in people's lives in the Amazon.
So when you went to the Amazon, you were sure that you were quite confident that wrongdoing was going on?
No, we were confident because we had done this pre-reporting already. So we had some evidence that it was that we knew that was going on. We had some evidence. However, we had a very thorough fact-checking process. So we needed to have the smoking gun. We needed images. We need confirmation on the ground that this company is a supplier of this other company. So the reporting trip included following trucks, talking to staff in slaughterhouses, talking to local experts, talking to the communities, people in the communities that had their land invaded by farmers to raise cows. So it required a lot of these, doorstepping and talking to people actually to just confirm what the data was telling us, to confirm what the documents that we got were telling us.
Supply chain stories are difficult. You've got these two huge companies with huge legal teams. Did that daunt you at all?
Yeah, but that's the job. we need to hold power to account. So as journalists, this is the service that we provide. So we scrutinize them and we expose whatever wrongdoing that we find. So we can try and push for change. We can try and influence them to change their practices, so they don't do business with destructive companies that are, pushing ahead with destruction and human rights violations. So we are very careful so we don't claim something that's not true. For ethical reasons, for legal reasons, you can't just say whatever you want if you can base that on substantial evidence. So this is why the reporting trips we wanted that because that's good journalism, right? But we also needed that for, as you mentioned, for fact checking and for legal reasons. So we are dealing with very powerful corporations. So we have to do our homework and make sure that the investigation was airtight.
And when you're actually in the Amazon, describe to us what it feels like, what it smells like, what you're actually seeing.
That's a good question. Because I joke with my friends that I really want to go to the Amazon and take a holiday and see the nice things and see the beautiful forest untouched and pure. Because every time I go and I see illegal mining, illegal timber extraction, violence, deforestation. So I usually go to the places where the forest has disappeared or it is disappearing. So it's a bit sad. But I want to say that everything changes when you visit, for example, an indigenous community.
We are now inside the territory of Mãe Maria, this indigenous territory in the state of Pará. Now we are 20 kilometers inside the forest. As you can see, it's green, it's silent, the smell is fresh, the weather is different, it feels different, and you can see how immense the forest is.
So indigenous communities have become this kind of oasis in the middle of a vastly destructed place. Forest was everywhere before, but the only preserved areas these days, and it's very clear when you see it from above with satellite imagery, it is very clear that indigenous communities are these kind of buffer of forests still standing, and everything around it is destroyed. So when you're getting there, the experience is completely different. The climate is different. The air is fresher. The biodiversity. So I remember visiting this indigenous community for this story specifically, and we were guests, and we were taken to this more central area of the indigenous land, where it was like way more preserved than the areas in the surroundings. And I remember all these butterflies around me. So it was like beautiful, and you feel different because the air is so fresh, the temperature is different. So this close contact with nature is not only inspiring, but it's a very important reminder of why we need to preserve forests for a more balanced climate.
Absolutely, they are incredibly important. So, can you contrast that then for us? This beautiful, fresh, biodiverse, rich forest that you were able to visit, and compare that to what it was like when you went to some of these beef farms.
Yeah, so the beef farms are in the surroundings of these indigenous communities, putting pressure on them, expanding more and more, and destroying what's left of forest, right? So they are under constant threat. A cattle farm is just pasture. There's nothing else. It's a little bit of a desert. And then you drive for a couple of hours, and then you get to the slaughterhouse. So this is the order in the supply chain. So slaughterhouse, tannery, and collagen factory. And then when you go to the collagen factory, the smell is very strong, and it's a smell of rotting carcasses. So ultimately, it smells like death.
So now you have the links to the illegal cattle farms, and you're following that through to make that link to the collagen trade. How did you do that?
For this investigation, for example, we proved that the meat packers, the slaughterhouses, were sourcing cows from illegally seized land, right? So the farmers raising cows inside indigenous territories is illegal, or the farmers raising cows inside territories that have been deforested, that is illegal. So the illegality starts at the beginning of the chain, and then is carried all the way to the end of supply chain, so to the supermarket shelves. So the illegality starts there. And we were able to prove that right away from the beginning, because in Brazil, we know that around 80% of all Amazon loss, so forest loss, is driven by the beef industry. So it's very likely that if you're buying beef products from Brazil, you're contributing to the deforestation of the Amazon.
We are at Transamazonica, which is a highway that cuts through the forest. And as you can see, we have a number of cattle farms. This one behind me is one of them. The cattle that is raised here and fattened here are moved to other farms on the way towards the state of Tocantins, where they are slaughtered and transformed in different products.
I mean, that figure, 80% is of deforestation in the Amazon being directly linked to the beef industry, brings it home to all of us as consumers that we're part of this. We're responsible for this. You cannot consume beef and extract yourself from this kind of moral equation that's going on here. So how does it make you feel as a journalist, but also as an individual? How did it make you feel coming away from that story, the work that you've put into it, the efforts that you made, seeing that reality on the ground? How does that make you feel now?
I think it's frustrating. I think putting it very simply, it's frustrating to see that you see the same players doing the same things over and over again. You keep on exposing them, you keep on writing about them, but without rules and without oversight and without proper law enforcement, you can really change things. I try to stay optimistic about it, because I work with investigations that take a while, and I try to look at it as a long-term game. So I will not necessarily see immediate impact with the stories that I produce, but in the long run, I expect that my work can contribute somehow to change or drive change in that industry. I feel that you have to be persistent and keep on going and keep on doing it. And it's really inspiring to see actual impact when it happens. But I know for a fact that I will not see impact right away every time I publish a story. For this story specifically, we had some impact. So we had a supplier being removed from a company's supply chain. We had Nestle itself claiming that they will no longer buy from certain suppliers that are sourcing ingredients from the Amazon rainforest. So that was a big win for a journalist. But I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't think this is something that happens all the time. So when it happens, when I do have some impact, I'm thrilled and I'm really happy because I feel that I did something that could help. But that motivates me and helps with the frustration.
It is interesting because people have said, other journalists have said that at the moment in time, that journalism is less about making an impact and more about just bearing witness. Do you feel that? Yeah,
I like to think that raising awareness about something can generate impact, and I think that it's not up to me. So I'm not going to change the world, and I'm not naive in that sense, but I like to think that I can contribute a little bit. I can play my part, which is being a journalist, working with public interest stories that can somehow influence or shed light on a topic that's underreported.
And it does have a long tail. I mean, the impact you had with that story was extraordinary. Like you say, an awful lot of investigations perhaps don't have an immediate impact. But of course, there's a long tail. You know, anyone now who's looking around to find research about collagen will come across your story, may think twice about becoming a consumer when they look back and see the realities of what is behind that purchase.
This one behind me is castanheira, which is a tree that takes at least 30 years to grow and to give fruits, which is used by indigenous people to eat and to sell the seeds to plant. This tree is invaluable. It takes decades to grow and to be fruitful. As you can see, it's a very, very tall tree. And this is the type of tree inside indigenous territory that indigenous people are trying to save.
Well, I was the first to report about collagen as a driver of deforestation. So I really appreciate that my team could work on an investigation that put collagen on the deforestation map. I think that nobody knew about that before, and we were able to provide that. So I think that's a win in itself, at least for me. So I could shed light on that problem.
The next COP30 is going to be held in Brazil. How cynical are you about that meeting? Do you think anything is going to be achieved that is good news for our forests, not just the Amazon, also the Congo Basin, these places that are the lungs of our world? How do you feel about that meeting?
I have mixed feelings about COP30. I'm very cynical about the conference itself, especially considering how the conference is being sponsored by the same companies that are driving destruction around the world. How lobbyists are welcomed with doors open to this convention to try and switch things to their benefit. But at the same time, I'm trying to be optimistic that at least thinking about forests specifically, this is good news because the conference being held in Brazil puts a very important spotlight on forests. Brazil is home to the biggest rainforest in the world, and Brazil has the majority of the forest. territory. So it is a very strategic and important country for forest preservation and for the balance of climate. So I try to stay positive that at least we'll call the attention of world leaders and the decision makers to the importance of forest preservation, of biodiversity preservation. But at the same time, the structure of the conference that we have today doesn't necessarily allow us to get things done, especially at the pace that we need today because of the emergency of the climate crisis. So I want to wait and see, and I would love to be proven wrong. And I would love to see things getting sorted and agreements being made and world leaders really doing their homework so we can survive in the planet with the climate crisis that we are facing already.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us and for talking through which really was a very unique story. So congratulations on that, and congratulations on the amount of work that went into it. It was something quite special, and I'm phenomenally glad for you that you did get some impact out of it.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.